Hello and welcome back to Imagination Mansion. Welcome back to my channel. It has been a month, I think. Wasn't supposed to be. That's just what happened. I've just been quite busy because they kept me on at the bookshop, so I'm so happy. And that's partially why all of this occurred. Sort of. So all of this are all the books that I have bought while I've been working at the bookstore. Not all of them are from that one specific bookstore, but they're all from the same time period of purchasing. So I might as well just get on with it because there are a lot. So first off is a stack of 3, and it is probably a bit out of the ballpark compared to the rest of my books, because it is Nazism volumes 1, 3 and 4. And honestly, the reason why I have these is I studied at an A-level and I got the second volume from a charity shop, but I couldn't find 1, 3 and 4 anyway, so I basically just had the second book, which isn't even about anything we were studying particularly, considering that one was about the economy. So I basically had the money volume. So as soon as I saw these on the website, I ordered them for myself into store and got them. Kind of because I'm interested in the topic, kind of for a sense of completionism. So I've got those behemoths. And next is The Anglo-Saxons by Mark Morris. I am currently reading his book on Edward I, very much enjoying it. And this was out in hardback for a while, but the hardback was very, very big, so I waited for it to come out in paperback. Next up, you will see that they're on like a random assortment of topics. Well, about 3 or 4 topics. Because the next one is Cumbria's Prehistoric Monuments by Adam Morgan Ibbotson. So it's this one. So I am from Cumbria, I am a Cumbrian gal. And I have seen a lot of Cumbria because my parents took me on a lot of hikes as a child. But it's interesting to see how much some of the random rocks have been there and what kind of meaning they may have had a few centuries ago. Next up, we have A Wood of One's Own by Ruth Pavey, which is a nature book about someone who basically bought a field and planted a bunch of trees in it. Obviously it's probably a bit more than that, but that's the concept of the book, and I was just interested to see how that went down. And also it's got some very sort of like her little scribbles, her little because that's like a map of the forest, the wood, should I say. Next we have Catherine Nixie, The Darkening Age, The Christian Destruction of the Classical World. So that should be enlightening and possibly incredibly depressing, but it'll be an interesting read. And especially as it crosses over some of my interests. So there's that one. Next we have The Bookseller of Florence, The Manuscripts That Illuminated the Renaissance by Ross King. What's this one? Renaissance, especially the Renaissance in Florence, very pretty. My parents went to Florence without me because it's a hot country and I am incredibly pale. But it is an era of history, especially if you're into art, that is very interesting, and so I got this one. Next up is The Year of the Witch, Connecting with Nature's Seasons Through Intuitive Magic by Temperance Alden. And this is a book that I have actually read online. Like, I got a book bundle from Humble Bundle, the website, all based around witchcraft and spirituality and all that kind of stuff. So I have technically read this before, but I wanted a physical copy that I could annotate and flick through whenever one of these holidays comes up. So, got that. On a similar vein, as you can see I'm reading it, is The Witch's Bible, The Complete Witch's Handbook by Janet and Stuart Farrar. So this is technically Wiccan, and I'm not Wiccan, but it's still a lot of information, and so a lot of it will still be helpful or at least interesting to read. So I've got that one. Next up, I've got World of Arthur, Facts and Fictions of the Dark Ages by Guy Halsall. There we go. That's that one. Love me some King Arthur. Love me some Ancient Britain. Ticks a lot of boxes. I'm always interested to see where the myths came from and what amalgamation of things they were. And it's also interesting, because I read a lot of medieval history as well, how obsessed medieval people were about King Arthur. And so it's always great to see the origins and where things came from and who was real and who wasn't, kind of thing. So that's that. Next up, we have The Mystery of the Hanging Garden of Babylon by Stephanie Daly. It's this one. Next up, we have Magic in Ancient Greece and Rome by Lindsay C. Watson. It's this one. So very much what it says on the tin. It's about what the Greeks and Romans believed in terms of magic, how they thought it worked, how they thought we could use it, who they invoked, what they did with it, etc. And very up my alley. So next up we have The Salt Path by Raina Wynn. This one here. Next up is Finding the Mother Tree, Uncovering the Wisdom and Intelligence of the Forest by Suzanne Simard. Love me some trees. Finding out that plants are more intricate than we thought they were is fascinating. So I got that one. And next we have an old behemoth, The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. So it's very big, because it also includes The Voyage of the Beagle. Next up, another plant-based one. It's Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake. Very pretty cover, and I got the one that has the red around the edges. But yeah, about mushrooms and fungi and all that good stuff. Next up we have The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Mind, Brain and the Body in Transformation of Trauma. Move my chair forward. My chair is just a box filled with things because we have no space. And so everything has to have a dual purpose. Next up is Why the Germans Do It Better, Notes from a Grown-Up Country by John Kampfner. It's this one. Next up is Storyland, A New Mythology of Britain by Amy Jeffs. So this combines two of my favourite things, mythology and Britain. And so that is definitely up my alley. Next up is The Picts by Tim Clarkson, which is something I don't see many books on, so I was quite happy to grab this because I have some like on the same topic, like Cat Jarman's The River Kings, the Vikings from Scandinavia till the Silk Roads, because Vikings are cool. Because next up is Neil Price's The Children of Ash and Elm, A History of the Vikings. So some of the information might cross over, but some of it might also be different, and it's always interesting to see how someone else translates the data. Next up we have Francis Pryor and Britain BC, Life in Britain and Ireland Before the Romans. And next up we have The First Kingdom, Britain in the Age of Arthur by Max Adams. Britain, King Arthur, history. Next we actually have some fiction, which, you know, surprise, surprise. So two of them kind of go together, because I've got Ransom Riggs' Tales of the Peculiar, and then I also have the 6th novel of Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children, The Desolation of Devil's Acre. And next up I have another to add to my collection of Murakami books. So I've got Kafka on the Shore. Really like his writing style, really like his stories, so you should really like this one. Next up I got one that speaks for itself. I got the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Penguin Classics edition. There were quite a few editions, but this one I thought, the other one had like it was really pretty, but it looked like it'd be really awkward to like hold. So I got this one. Next is Venus and Aphrodite, History of a Goddess by Bettany Hughes. You know, basically how the love goddesses came about, how they've changed. It's a very, very pretty cover. Next up we have Anam Cara, Spiritual Wisdom from the Celtic World by John O'Donoghue. This one. And on a similar vein, I've got Blood of the Celts by John Manco, the new ancestral story. So this is more of the history side. Next up I have Neil McGregor's Living with the Gods. So next up we have sciencey stuff. So a completely different ballpark. I've got Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark, Being Human in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, which seemed pretty cool. Then I've got Stephen Hawking, Brief Answers to the Big Questions. Another science author I like, Michio Kaku. I think I've got another one of his. I've got another couple of his in here, I think. He's, like, I've watched him in interviews and stuff like that, and he's just so passionate about it, and, you know, like, theoretical physics is his jam, and it's honestly just, he's just nice to read as well. The Planets by Andrew Cohen and Professor Brian Cox. So it's talking about the planets. I have another Michio Kaku here, the God Equation, The Quest for a Theory of Everything. So it's that one. I haven't read this one yet, but it seems very, I literally got this, I think, last week or so. So next up we have The Elegant Universe by Brian Greene. So this is all about all the different theories and string theory, specifically, I think. Next I have another Brian Cox with Jeff Forshaw, The Quantum Universe, Everything That Can Happen Does Happen. So quantum physics book, very interesting, should be. And another Brian Cox and Andrew Cohen is The Human Universe. So that should be another interesting one. So I ended up getting the anniversary edition of the first Harry Potter. Harry Potter had a very big impact on my life. Love it, always will. Honestly, like, it's just been my safe space and my little happy place for like so many years. So when I saw that this was coming out, and especially because my copy of the first one is falling apart, I got that. Next up is Saimamir the Khan. So this is a thriller, and I have actually read this one, and it's very good. Like, when you think you know what's happening, it changes, but not in a like, oh, for goodness sake, stop changing the plot kind of way, but in an, oh, that makes so much more sense kind of way. So, highly recommend this one. Next up, so these ones specifically are hardbacks. So this one is Sacred Britannia, The Gods and Rituals of Roman Britain. And that's Miranda Altos Green, and it's basically comparing the Romans who came in and then the sort of like deities that they were side by side with, basically. So that should be an interesting read. Next, I have Professor Alice Roberts and her book Buried. I thought about whether I should get this as quickly as I did for a while, because I have her other book, Ancestors, and I have it in hardback and I have it signed, but I haven't read it yet, and I've had that book for a while, so I didn't know whether I should just wait until this came out in paperback and then get it then, especially as I missed out on the signed edition. But I was like, you know what, I know I'll like it. I like her writing style, I like the topic, so I got it. Next I have Ancient Egyptian Magic by Christina Riggs, so that's this one. Next, on a similar vein, I have Philip Matsiak, Ancient Magic, a Practitioner's Guide to the Supernatural in Greece and Rome. So this is similar to the book I showed before, which is Magic in Ancient Greece and Rome, but it's just a different take on it. Next we have The Young H.G. Wells Changing the World by Claire Tomalin. I have only read one H.G. Wells book. I have only read War of the Worlds, but I absolutely loved it. And I do have The Time Traveller as well. I just haven't read it yet. But I do love his prose, and I love the kind of concepts that he talks about in them. So these ones I have actually read, but so this is my other Michio Kaku that I was talking about, which is Parallel Worlds, The Science of Alternative Universes and Our Future in the Cosmos. So this is string theory as well. This is the reason why I got The Elegant Universe, was once again, he's just so passionate about it that I just, I was like, oh, I need to read more about this. And this is Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time, From the Big Bang to Black Holes. Next up, I have Viking Britain, A History by Thomas Williams. Next, I have Metazoa, Animal Minds and the Birth of Consciousness by Peter Godfrey Smith. And then next up, let's take a sip. And next up we have The Dinosaurs Rediscovered, How a Scientific Revolution is Rewriting History by Michael J. Benton. Loved this book, so good. If you love dinosaurs from like a scientific point of view, you will love this book. And the last of the books that second to last book that I got from my job is The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs by Steve Brusatte. So this is all about dinosaurs, but it's also about sort of like his learning and journey and the things that he's discovered and the people he's worked with. And then the last of the ones that I got from my job is The Complete World of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is this big book. And it's like laminated and it's got pictures and stuff. So this talked less about what was actually in the Sea Scrolls than I wanted it to. It went more on about the troubles that the translation team had, and how people kept buying them off people and people kept just shoving them in cupboards for years. But it was still an interesting read, and it did sort of like whet my appetite and make me actually want to like read more about the actual texts. So there's that one. You'd think, are we done? We are done with the ones from that one shop. But I did also get, in smaller quantities, I may say, books from other places. So from TK Maxx, which sounds odd, but from like their Home Sense bit, because they do sometimes have some books in there. I got this one called Big Dreams, Daily Joys by Elise Blaha Kneip. I'm not sure, it's very it's very swirly text, so apologies if I've got your name wrong. But yeah, this, and it's basically like how to plan properly And then I've also got Understanding Tarot. Discover the tarot and find out what your cards really mean by Liz Dean. So I like tarot and I like the idea of tarot. I have yet to own a single pack. I don't know. See, so many people have said like, oh, you need your first pack to be gifted. That I'm like, well, what happens if you don't? Like, so I'm just like, I haven't got one just because I've almost been like fear-mongered into not getting one. But I do enjoy reading about them, and I do want to actually start using an actual pack of cards at some point. Because I use like an app on and off sometimes. Yeah, it's nothing compared to the real thing. I'd assume. I wouldn't know. I've never owned the real thing. Next up, I have some charity shop finds. So I have a version of For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. Next up, we have The Vatican Princess by C.W. Gaultner. This one. Next up is another Egypt book, Art and History of Egypt, 5,000 Years of Civilization. And I think this is like a textbook because it doesn't seem to have an author, except it says Bonachi at the bottom, but I don't know if that's author or brand. But yeah, it's like almost like a textbook kind of. Lots of pictures and the such. So I thought that would be interesting. Next up we have Dark Goddess Craft, A Journey Through the Heart of Transformation by Stephanie Woodfield. Next I have Practical Celtic Magic, A Working Guide to the Magical Heritage of the Celtic Races by Murray Hope. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how accurate it would be, but I think it'd still be interesting, and it will definitely still feature things that could be used if you wished to use them. So it's one of those things where I'll take it with a pinch of salt, but it will still definitely be an interesting read. And these kind of things, especially magic and ancient religion, and I suppose religion in general, honestly, is, you know, personal interpretation as well as what texts you can get a hold of. So I think it will still be useful anyway. I have stuff from the works. So from the works I got The Green Witch by Aaron Murphy Hiscott. Next up I got Spells for Change, A Guide for Modern Witches by Frankie Castaneda, also known as the Chaotic Witch Aunt on YouTube, which is someone that I follow on YouTube. So when I saw this, I picked it up, and I have actually read this because it's quite an easy read and I enjoyed it. Next up is The Secret Lives of the Elements by Catherine Harkup. And it's quite interesting. So you've got like the split personality, the trickster, the monster, the sedative, etc. So that should be interesting and quite easy as well, because each one is like only like a couple of pages long. And then the next I have a set of 3 collection by Autumn Publishing, and you've got How to Find a Fairy, How to Find a Dragon, and How to Find a Unicorn. These are technically children. I got these from the children's section, but who doesn't like fairies, dragons, and unicorns? Whether you believe in them or not, they're cool. So I got those. And last up are some that I will be very careful with, for they are very old. Which are ones that I got from a charity shop, but I got from the vintage section. So one that I am currently reading at the moment is one called Radio Astronomy by F. Graham Smith. It's this one. It's from, I think it was originally from the 30s, but it's the version from, oh no, it's from the 60s. This is the 3rd edition from 1966. So, and next up in the Pelican section is Archaic Egypt by W.B. Emery. which is this one. And then in the like actually looking old books, I have Blue Guide to Scotland, which is like a travel guide, but a really old one. And they have like these really pretty maps in and everything, and I just thought it was very, very pretty. Next I have Julius Caesar from the Heroes of the Nations collection by Ward Fowler, and apparently it's from Wirral College, so it's very pretty. And it's one of those things where I quite often read about Greek history, like ancient Greece and Greek mythology and stuff, and then I don't read about the Roman one because I think of how like, the Roman conquest and stuff like that, it feels like I shouldn't be studying both, and to study Roman history on top of Greek history is just like rude, I guess. But then I think in terms of like, because I'm reading about Celtic and I'm reading about Viking and I'm reading about the people that actually came to Britain, it's the Romans that came to Britain, and so learning about them is also learning kind of about that as well. And also I think I need to stop gatekeeping myself. Like, I don't think anyone else is telling me like, oh no, you can't learn about Greek and Roman history because that's mean. Like, I don't think anyone's saying that. I think I'm saying that, so I need to not, and I am allowed to read about Roman history and Roman mythology, and I'm allowed to find it interesting and find Greek history and Greek mythology interesting. Like, I don't have to pick and choose. You know, honestly, like, being aware of like the cultural clashes, fair enough, but don't gatekeep yourself on knowledge. Like, especially if no one else is saying it. Moving on from that revelation is Harold, the Last of the Saxon Kings by Bulwer Lytton. When is this from? What does it say? I don't think it does. But look at that. That is so pretty. I have to be very careful with it. 1906. It's from 1906. Suddenly is extra careful. Next up I have The Moths of the British Isles, a handy pocket guide with descriptive text by Richard South. Honestly, it is what it says on the tin. It's a book of moths, but I quite like moths, so. And very, very pretty pictures. Sorry if you don't like moths or bugs of any kind, but I kind of love them. Except when I'm trying to make a cup of tea and it's dark outside and one of them keeps ramming its head into our window. And it's like, stop, please. And last but not least is this absolute behemoth that we managed to find in a charity shop called A Sailor's Odyssey, the autobiography of Admiral of the Fleet, Viscount Cunningham of Hindhope. And it is a behemoth. And yeah, it's all about his journeys on this boat, and it's, yeah, this is legitimately a man's life in my hands, and it's just amazing, because I can't remember how much this was. It wasn't that expensive. It was £2.50 for this, which is insane. And I love how the top of it has gone blue, because the ink has just like bleeded over time. I don't know, it might supposed to have been blue, I'm not entirely sure, but I just love that. But yeah, it's just wild to me. Let's see if I can get all the pictures, and it's got photos in it as well. See if it'll let me without having to do anything stupid. Got photos in it and everything. So that was a good find. And that's the thing, all of these I will read, even the old ones, though I will be very, very careful with them. I might not want to read that one now I know quite how old it is, but I will absolutely be reading all of these. It will take me a while to get to them, so I definitely have to slow down in buying so I can catch up with reading. But especially since I had a break of like 2 years, not on purpose, I just didn't read anything for like 2 years. Getting back into the swing of things and actually sort of like having that fire underneath me again was amazing. And sort of like, even though it's kind of switched lanes, like I used to read mostly fiction and I literally only read like non-fiction at like school. I now am mostly reading non-fiction, and I'm actually being able to read about all the things that I love and all the topics that interested me and all the things that are very personal to me, like spirituality, religion, all that kind of stuff. You know, it is very like uplifting and affirming, and I love it. So that's everything. I think I might actually start making more book related videos on this channel, because as you see, it's my life now, both personally and professionally. You know, there are many different topics that I read about, and you know, there will probably be more hauls after this, just a lot smaller. Though to be fair, this is over 5 months. I didn't buy this in like 2 weeks. I bought this in 5 months, and this is from like multiple shops. So I'm not as crazy as you think I am, though I am quite crazy. I even have a cat. But it's just, I kind of went a bit ham because finally I was bitten by the reading bug again, and I was actually reading things and I was taking in information and I was nerding out, and it's just a good time. But yeah, I will probably be making more videos on this channel about books, maybe about books that I've read. I might group them into topics. If there's any topics that you've seen in the books that I've pulled out today, let me know, and I can make, you know, maybe I can make some like review videos, or just, you know, like what books I have on this topic, because obviously I do have other books on my shelves on these topics. So, and that's the thing, I'm not reading them to be an expert in any one field. I'm covering far too many fields to be able to do that. I'm just reading them because I find them interesting and they're written in an interesting way. Obviously not all of them will be, and some of them will be like misses, and I might find them really, really boring, or they might not cover an area that I actually want them to, or heck, some of them might be a bit too opinionated or whatever, and in which case, you know, I'll either donate them or something like that. But this is my collection that I have gathered in 5 months of working at a bookshop. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, comment, have you read any of these books? Did any of them seem interesting to you? And subscribe, because I am absolutely going to be trying to make more book videos in the future. And so if that's your thing, stick around. I don't know if the bell icon's still a thing, but if you want notifications from me when I post, press that too. And yeah, I'll see you next time.